G'day everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel. So what a home and away season it has been in the AFL for season 2022. The crowds are fully back, there's been high action and high drama, and of course there has been some insane games throughout the duration of this season. So in today's video I'm going to be going over my top 10 AFL games for the 2022 home and away AFL season. If you're going to enjoy today's video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, that'd be much appreciated, and let's get into today's video. Now before we get into the top 10, I quickly want to go over a few honourable mentions. Some games that were quite unlucky not to make the top 10. The honourable mentions I have is Port Adelaide versus Gold Coast in round 15, Adelaide versus Collingwood in round 18, the Hawks versus the Lions in round 10, Adelaide versus Port in round 3, and North Melbourne versus Richmond in round 18. Okay, now the honourable mentions out of the way, let's get into my top 10 games from the 2022 AFL season. Kicking off in 10th place, I've got the Western Bulldogs versus the D's back in round 19. An awesome game this was, high scoring, high drama, an entertaining shootout to watch as the Bulldogs held on by 10 points. The Bulldogs are quite shaky. The last 3 games they lost 2 in considerable fashion against the Lions and the Swans. They had that win against 𝐓𝐡𝐞 𝐎𝐥𝐝 the previous week to gain a bit of confidence heading into a massive game against the D's. A grand final rematch as the D's were looking to continue to chalk up those wins and solidify a top 4 spot. Bulldogs started off the game very strong before the D's piled on 4 goals in a row late in the first and early in the second. Bulldogs were able to respond in the second term with 3 goals back, but the D's continued to soar with their accurate kicking. Bailey Fritsch unstoppable in the first half with 4 goals next to his name. Tim English had a great night against Gawn as he slotted his second goal on the run in the third, followed by a Norton Major out of the ruck to make it a 1-point game. A quick goal back from James Harms and a steady set shot from Wiedemann restored some of the D's margin back as they head into the final break with a 13-point margin. This is where 𝐬𝐿𝐴 𝐼𝐗𝐿𝐴 turned into a clutch beast and had his career best game, kicking 5 goals straight, 3 of those goals coming in the 4th term. The first of his final quarter goals being a set shot to close in the gap. 𝐬𝐿𝐴 managed to slot another sneaky goal against the grain to extend the margin back out to 13 points. 𝐬𝐿𝐴 could have been the man to get the D's home once again after a sensational performance the week before with 6 goals against Port Adelaide, but a few gettable shots missed left the door open for the Bulldogs, and they were sure able to stand up to the task, with 𝐼𝐗𝐿𝐴 slotting another set shot, an unlikely Jack Macrae goal from a Stephen May blunder, Riley Garcia's goal from the pocket to put the Doggies in front, and for the ice on the cake, an absolute unbelievable bomb from 55 from 𝐬𝐿𝐴 𝐼𝐗𝐿𝐴 to show his worth as the Dogs held on in an epic 10-point win shootout to keep their season alive in an epic fashion. Moving on now to my 9th best game of 2022, I have the Richmond Tigers versus the Lions back in round 20. An absolutely crazy game this was. Lions would head to the MCG to take on the Tigers and try break the curse of finally being able to win a game at the G since 2013, but the drought would continue as the Tigers manufactured an inspirational comeback to knock off the Lions, with constant pressure being the main recipe to expose the Lions' defensive half. The Lions' strength and forward half ball movement was on display right from the get-go, kicking the first 6 goals of the game, with Joe Daniher already having 3 goals. Brisbane continued to motor on in the second term to head into the main break with a 6-goal margin. Something needed to change for the Tigers in the second half. They were getting destroyed in the contest and giving up too many repeated inside 50 entries. The Tigers turned to their fast-paced ball use and forward half pressure game in the second half, and things were starting to click. They started to break even in the contest, were getting the repeated entries, and their forwards like Lynch and Riewoldt were starting to get a lot more involved into the game. 3 goals to Tom Lynch was key in the third quarter for the Tigers, as they're only now down by 11 points at 3-quarter time. The Tigers' chaos ball and elite pressure continued in the final term, as the Lions' defensive half was starting to crack, with a lot more panic and unsure ball use. The game turned into a bit of an end-to-end frenzy, with 𝐷𝐻 McCluggage slotting the first in the final term from a hole in the ball call. Then the Tigers started to flick the switch and started to excel in the contest and clearances. Cumberland coolly slotted his 5th major, followed by a high drama period of either side unable to convert their chances. Then Daniel Rioli broke the drought with an extraordinary goal from the centre square on the run to put the Tigers in front. Some controversy came into play, with a Lincoln McCarthy set shot converted via the score review, but not given in the end, with a holding free rewarded to Noah Bolter. Mitch Robinson failed to slot home a set shot from directly in front as he tied the scores. Then, under a minute to play, with the Tigers leading by a point, the Lions need to go end to end to hit the front, However, a play-on blunder from Darcy Gardner turned the ball over straight to Trent Cotchin, which allowed him to hit up an unmanned Tom Lynch to slot his 4th goal and kick the sealer in what was a game with huge momentum swings. This was an important game for the Tigers as they were now able to make the 8. In 8th spot, I do have the Pies versus the Blues back in round 11. Geez, these two sides this year both had insane encounters, and of course we can't forget about the first encounter these two sides had back in round 11. It was a magnificent game. This was back when Carlton were in tremendous form. They were trying to seek their 5th win in a row and were high on confidence and form, but it'd be no easy task trying to knock off their old foe in the Pies, who were trying to build some consistency, losing 2 of their last 3 games, sitting on a 5-5 record. Both sides started off strong before the majors would start drying up late in the first, featuring a major AC joint injury to 𝐓𝐴𝐸 𝐻𝐪 after an attempted hip and shoulder to Jordan De Goey. Speaking of De Goey, he would go bang from 50 out 15 seconds into the second term to extend the Pies' margin out to 14 points. Carlton would eventually get going later in the second, snagging 4 goals in a row to lead by a kick at half time. The Pies' contest game turned up a notch after the main break as they won the premiership quarter, keeping the Blues goalless and star recruit 𝗵𝐿𝐼𝐻𝐿 kicking 2 goals. Jesse Motlop socking home the first of the final term to close in the margin, but the Pies wouldn't let it slip with 2 crucial majors to Mason Cox from the set shot and a quick snap from the stoppage by Tyler Brown. Midway through the last, Ollie Henry stepped up to make it 3 in a row and seeming hard for the Blues to come back. However, Matt Owies never said die as he kicked truly to 2 important set shots. Charlie Curnow was huge in the last 5 minutes, kicking a massive set shot from 50 out to closing the gap under 2 goals. The free-flowing end-to-end style would continue as the Blues would go coast to coast as Curnow booted his 4th to make it a 5-point game with a minute to play. The stage was set for a high-drama finish as the ball would be camped in the Blues forward 50 for the final minute of the game. Then a chance came for Jack Silvani to put the Bags in front, but narrowly missed with a snapshot. A questionable Pendlebury kick-out allowed the Blues one more inside 50 entry, but the Pies' defence stood up tall in the dying moments to hold on in an absolute Carlton-Collingwood classic by 5 points. This was the Pies' 2nd win in a row, and it did kick off their famous win streak for 2022. For my 7th best game of 2022, I have the Swans versus Richmond in round 11. This was a Martin Crook game playing for the Martin Crook Trophy, and wow, this game had everything. The comeback, the drama, the controversy at the end. It was an absolute cracker. The Swans are trying to find their stride in the season after losing 3 of their last 4 games as they would face an informed Tigers side who are looking to make it 5 wins in a row. Both sides had their woes of carnage, with 𝗏𝐼𝐻𝐿, 𝐻𝐿𝐼 and Kennedy out for the Swans and Tom Lynch out for the Tigers. The match started off quite evenly until the Tigers started to put the foot down late in the first, kicking 7 unanswered goals and head into the main break with a healthy 25-point margin after a few Swans majors. Jayden Short went bang from 55 inside 20 seconds in the third to extend the margin out. However, this would be the Tigers' last goal into the fourth, as the Swans methodically clawed their way back as they won the quarter, to just now only be trailing by 6 points heading into the final break, thanks to Papley, Buddy and 2 goals to Sam Reid. The human meatball would get the Tigers off to a cracking start in the final term with a goal from the out of 50. This is where the Swans needed someone to lift as the Tigers looked like they were going to run away with it again. Enter Buddy Franklin. The 35-year-old turned it up a notch in the final term, started off by slotting a lovely goal on a run. Even bloody 𝐴𝐸 was loving it. A costly defensive error by Braden Campbell turned into a Jack Graham snag to get a goal back. Buddy again had an instant reply, slotting a set shot to close the margin to 8 points. The crowd started to lift and so did the Swans. They start to win more of the clearances and 50-50s. Luke Parker's strong mark inside 50 was rewarded with a snag as Will Hayward marked the set shot on the line and tapped it home to make it under a kick. Right after that, the Swans would win the next centre bounce clearance as Goulden would hit up Buddy on the lead as he would go back and put the Swans in the lead, also kicking his 5th in the process. Richmond had their chances to get their lead back, but there was no joy kicking 3 behinds in a row. Daniel Rioli had a defensive nightmare, slipping over and coughing up possession in the process, as Tom Papley win a crucial 50-50, a quick handball chain from the Swans, then a Wicks walking goal to get the margin out to 7 points. The Tigers continued to miss a few vital chances, and the Swans kept on making them pay, as 𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐼 converted from a downfield free kick against Buddy. Josh Gipkus, of all likely people, would then go back and coolly slot a set shot from 55, his first in the big leagues. The last 2 minutes in the game were tense as the Swans' defence was standing up. With just 6 seconds left on the clock with a boundary throw in on centre wing, Chad Warner and Prestia would tussle for the ball, resulting in a high free for Prestia. However, the siren would sound just after the whistle blew, as Warner would boot the ball into the crowd in jubilation. Since the free kick was paid before the siren and Warner booted the ball into the crowd, It was theoretically a 50-metre penalty, with a scoring opportunity to tie the game from Prestia. However, common sense umpiring came into play. Since Warner was unable to hear the whistle because of the siren in the crowd, the free kick would instead take place from where it occurred on centre wing, resulting in, of course, a shot falling short, as the Swans would take the chocolates in an insane game and finish. The Swans overcoming a 33-point deficit and grabbing the 4 points in style to end the Tigers' win streak and get their season back on track. For my 6th best game of 2022, I have the Demons versus the Pies in round 21. An absolutely insane game this was, full of momentum changes, full of lead changes too, an extremely entertaining match to watch. The D's were looking to lock up a top 2 spot as they hosted the Red Hot Pies, who themselves were looking to make it a historic 11 wins in a row. Both sides knew how high the stakes of this game was, with the D's and the Pies kicking 6 goals straight combined, inside 8 minutes. The blistering first term would end with 11 goals combined. Throughout the match, the D's were convincingly beating the Pies around the contest in inside 50s, but the Maggies' accurate kicking with limited entries and their defence was the reason for keeping them in this game. The scoring dried up for the D's in the vital premiership quarter, as the Pies started to break even in the contest and would chip away to close the margin to 7 points at 3/4 time. The fourth term would turn into a hard slog early on, with constant stoppages and either side being unable to score. Jamie Elliott starred on the night. With 3 goals to his name before half time, he would go and convert a major from a holding the ball call to make the margin a point. The momentum was in the Pies' favour, as we witnessed one of the tackles of the year from Braden Maynard, resulting in a quick inside 50 entry and marked from Ash Johnson. Johnson was a star on the night. The mid-season draft recruit was having his breakout game, as he kicked truly from the set shot, kicking his third and to put the Pies in front. It felt like the D's dominance started to slip away, but then a crazy goal-for-goal affair would occur, kicked off by Benny Brown from the set shot to regain the lead. A Dacos to Dacos handball chain would come into play as Josh would put the Pies back in front. Then right after, the D's would win the centre clearance, resulting in a Neil Bullen major, making it now 6 lead changes for the game. Ash Johnson would bob up again, coolly slotting another set shot from a free to put the Pies in front again. With plenty of time for the D's to regain the lead, they were struggling to do so. The Pies were setting up around the ground exceptionally well, whilst mostly locking the ball in their forward half. Colin would continue to lock the ball in, until a Stephen May blunder turned the ball over to Crisp again as he would wind down the clock, knowing the Pies were home, as they knocked off the D's for the 2nd time this year and continued their amazing win streak, making it now 11. A highly entertaining game for the neutral fan with many lead changes and momentum swings. For my 5th best game of 2022, I do have Gold Coast vs Richmond in round 17. What a game this was after the siren dramas. One of the best Suns victories in history, I do reckon. The Tigers head up to the Gold Coast to take on the Suns, seeking their 10th win of the year and to maintain their spot in the 8th. The Suns, on the other hand, had lost their last 2 games by under a goal and were looking to head back into the winner's circle. The game started off evenly, with both sides having their fair share of snags. A Ben Ainsworth goal would give the Suns the lead with under 5 minutes left in the first, but this would be the last time the Suns would see the lead for almost the whole game. The Tigers' dominance started to surge, as they would kick 7 goals to the Suns' 1, from late in the first term to half time. The Suns were keeping themselves in it. They would go on to win the 3rd quarter, but still facing a 28-point deficit at 3/4 time. Gold Coast started off strong in the final term, kicking the first 2 inside 5 minutes. Jack Rewa would grab a settler for the Tigers by kicking an absolute corker of a set shot from the boundary. The Suns would quickly go end to end and grab a CMD snag of a free. Jason Castagna had the chance to extend the Tigers' lead with under 6 minutes left and potentially seal the game, but a mixture of poor awareness and brilliant defensive effort came into play, with an inspirational goal-saving smother from Charlie Ballard. After that insane 1%er, the game was now wide open. A Jaden Short brain fade would turn into a 50-metre penalty as Matt Rea would kick truly to make the margin under 2 goals. The final 2 minutes to this game was insane. The Suns started to get repeated inside 50 entries as former Tiger Mabior Chol crumbed the marking contest and socked home the Suns' 3rd goal in a row to make the margin 4 points with a minute left. With the final inside 50 in the game, a mark that should have been eaten up by Dylan Grimes was dropped, allowed Holman to crumb, centre the ball to 𝐼𝐗𝐿 and centre the ball again to Noah Anderson with a chance to win it after the siren. After the Tigers leading nearly the whole game and leading by as much as 40 points, their hearts would be broken as Noah Anderson landed the knockout blow, calmly slotting home the goal after the siren to notch up one of the best Suns victories in their history and mathematically keeping their season alive. For my fourth best game of 2022, I have the Cats versus the Tigers in round 15. The Cats getting owned by 3 points on this day. What a game it was after half time. A lot of lead changes, high scoring, high action. The Cats were looking to make it 5 on the bounce as they hosted a hungry Tigers side who were looking to continue to push up the ladder, winning 4 of their last 5 games. The first quarter seemed to be all Cats as they opened their account with a 5-2 to 2-0 scoreline. Tom Stewart would be in hot water after a late and high bump knocking out 𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐼. The Cats' dominance continued throughout the second, but 3 handy Tigers goals in a row pulled back the margin to 20 points at half time. The tables were turned straight after half time as the Tigers would kick the first 2 in the third. They were going to score 5-1 and hit the lead for the first time of the game at 3/4 time. Third gamer Judson Clark would kick off the last term in style, snapping home a major, followed by Lynch's third goal of the game to extend their lead out to 17 points. The game again would turn another corner, with the Cats kicking 3 in a row and gaining back their lead and setting this match up for a grandstand finish. Geelong would continue to get repeated inside 50 entries but could not capitalise on their chances, kicking 3 points in a row. This left the door open for the Tigers to strike back. A crucial 50-50 1 and a lovely kick inside 50 from Marlon Pickett left Maurice Rioli to slot home a cool and calm set shot to put the Tigers back in front with 2 minutes left. Tom Atkins would win the important next centre clearance. A wobbly inside 50 entry was read best by Tyson Stengel as he launched the ball to the top of the goal square. Swingman Jack Henry was the unlikely hero, plucking an awesome contested mark, allowing him to go back and put the Cats in front with just a minute left. The Cats' defence would stand tall in the dying moments, blocking out any scoring shots with the Tigers' late inside 50 chances. Geelong would hold on in what was one of the games of the year. Momentum swings after half-time as the Cats would continue their win streak and push up to second on the ladder. For my third best game of 2022, I have the D's versus Carlton in round 22. This was just an absolutely insane game to watch. Just real hard slog, contested kind of game. The second half turned into a high scoring affair and it was just one of those games where you had to see it to believe it, especially at the end. Both teams coming off disappointing losses would want to get a win in this match. The Demons to maintain their top 4 spot and the Blues to lock up a final spot. The first term would be a highly contested and an accurate affair from both sides, with just a goal each to show from their efforts. The scoring would eventually start to turn up, but the game would continue to be a stoppage-heavy contest and a goal-for-goal battle, with the D's heading into the main break with an 8-point lead. Melbourne would start to get the edge with slowly getting on top of their inside 50s and contested game, but whenever the D's converted their chances, the Blues would respond back. The goal-for-goal affair would continue throughout the third term, until the Blues piled on 3 in a row. Christian Petrarca check side home a goal to put the D's back in front, a 3-point margin to be exact, heading into 3/4 time, after a very high scoring term. With the start of the game featuring low scoring, both teams would start to play with a lot more dare in the fourth quarter. Goals were crucial as ever, with both sides kicking very inaccurately. Jack Martin would kick his second of the game and put the Blues back in front, before Ed Langdon found a quick response. As the behinds kept on pouring in, Jack Martin would step up again to regain Carlton's lead. Carlton would continue to pile on the points. After 3 behinds in a row, Ben Brown got the D settler to keep the margin under a goal. Carlton's repeated entries finally got rewarded, with a solid contested mark and goal from Charlie Curnow, extending the margin out to over a goal with under 3 minutes left. 2 Demons goals in that time frame seemed unlikely, but with somehow Jake Melksham taking a 1-on-4 contested grab and goaling, turned the task into a very likeable chance. The Blues were just a minute away from finals, but with some poor ball use decisions and defensive structure, it allowed the D's to get one more entry. As Jaden Hunt launched the ball to the top of the goal square, Melksham again was in the thick of it, feeding the ball out from the marking contest, allowing 𝐬𝐻𝐿𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐼 to cleanly pick up the pill, snap on his right boot, and kick truly to put the D's back in front with 13 seconds left on the clock. In a complete you have to see it to believe it affair, the Demons snatched victory at the jaws of defeat, winning by 5 points. The Blues dropping this game would extend their losing streak out to 3, as they would have to wait another week to determine their September plans. And now for the second best game of 2022, I have the Pies versus the Dons in round 19. One of the most unbelievable finishes I think I've ever seen, or in a long time ever seen. The Pies were looking to make it 9 on the trot, but it would be no easy task facing an underperforming Essendon side, as they wouldn't mind spoiling the Pies' party and top 4 hopes. Collingwood started like a house on fire, kicking 6-0 in the first term, featuring 3 goals from Ash Johnson and a Josh Dacos Goal of the Year contender. The Pies' intensity would start to fizz out slightly, with Essendon winning the second quarter, kicking 5 goals 2 to 1 goals 2, now only facing a 13-point deficit. This would continue on in the third term, turn the game on its head, with the Dons kicking 5 goals to the Pies 1. Sam Draper brought the house down for the Dons fans, as he converted late in the third to head into the final break with a 14-point lead. 𝐓𝐿𝐹 extended the Dons' lead to kick off the fourth quarter. The Dons failed to capitalise on a few chances to put the game to bed, as the Pies still had belief and took the game by the scruff of its neck, with kicking 3 goals in a row and 𝗦𝐷𝐸 sub 𝐽𝐿𝐶 𝐼𝐵 with 2 of them. The game suddenly only now a 2-point margin with 8 minutes left. The scoring dried up for the remainder of the game and continued to be an end-to-end battle with both defences standing up. A sensational tackle from Harry Jones on Jeremy Howe would result in a holding the ball call and a chance to end the game with just over a minute left. However, his shot would narrowly strike the post, leaving a chance open for the Pies to go end-to-end and hit the lead with 45 seconds. Then would cue the most unbelievable passage of play of the 2022 AFL season. A quick kick out from Pendlebury found Darcy Moore, who played on instantly and found Bianco alone on the wing. Instead of looking in the corridor, Bianco pinned the ears and launched the ball deep inside 50 to a 1-on-2. Amazingly, Jake Kelly nor Langdon were able to spoil the ball out of bounds, as Jamie Elliott marked the ball in between both of them and had the chance after the siren to win the game from the pocket. With the Dons leading as much as 20 points in the fourth quarter and the Pies looking no chance, Jamie Elliott slotted one of the best goals after the siren you'll ever see. The Pies snatching victory from the Dons in an unbelievable fashion. Collingwood's insane winning streak would march on for another week, making it 9 wins in a row. And now for the best game of the 2022 AFL home and away season. I think many of you probably know what it is already. It is, of course, Carlton versus Collingwood, round 23. This is undisputedly the game of the year, simply because it was high action, high drama, the ramifications for both sides were huge, and of course it was the biggest rivalry in the AFL going at it all afternoon. And of course a finish like no other. There are many ways how the ladder could have been shaped on this game. The Bulldogs defeating Hawthorn early in the day meant that Carlton would need to win or draw to play finals football. On the other side of the coin, the Swans defeating St Kilda meant that the Pies needed to win to make top 4. So there were massive ramifications for both sides. The 88,000 of the MCG were ready. Both teams at head-to-head could not be picked as a favourite, as the odds were dead even throughout the week. Collingwood started the game off very strong, dominating forward half ball use, and if more accurate, could have had a much larger margin at quarter time, with the scores being 3 goals 5 to 0 goals 3. The second term would be a lot more even, with the Blues narrowly winning the quarter whilst getting on top of their contested game. A quick 2 snags in a row from the Pies would extend their margin out to 19 points at half time. Right off the bat in the third, the Blues would turn it up a notch. They would surge and slot home 4 in a row inside 10 minutes, and another 2 to make it 6 unanswered majors. Carlton were dominating in the contested game, and especially the inside 50s. Ginnivan would kick his third against the grain to try and stop some of the momentum, but Charlie Curnow would instantly reply with an absolute pearler, followed by Motlop's second late in the third to make it a 4-goal margin at 3/4 time. After a 7 AFL jinx posts on social media, the fourth term was underway. Chances for the Blues were missed early on to increase their lead, which again, like so many times this year, left the Pies with belief to come back. Ash Johnson and Mason Cox would convert their set shots to make it 2 in a row. Down the other end, O'Brien, Mackay and Curnow failed their opportunities to get one back. With 6 minutes to go, Jamie Elliott would take a ripping mark and go back and convert to make the margin under 2 goals. Collingwood kept on riding the momentum wave, with Beau McCreary slotting an absolute beauty from the pocket. It was now anyone's game. The final 5 minutes were some of the best footy you could watch, both old fierce rivals playing like there's no tomorrow. A controversial decision by Charlie Curnow was then made. Instead of passing short to Corey Durden, he decided to go deep to a mismatch, which allowed the Pies to slingshot the ball end to end. Jamie Elliott again the hero, coolly sliding home the match winner with a minute and a half left. There was still time left for the Blues, and all they needed was a point to draw, and that would be still enough to make the finals. Durden had the chance to pump the ball deep inside 50, but failed to hit a leading target, resulting in a turnover. In a tense battle in the dying moments, Collingwood would hold on by a point in another amazing Pies close win. The Pies making the top 4 and knocking out their biggest rival out of the finals. It was truly the Game of the Year. So everyone, there were my top 10 AFL games of the 2022 AFL season. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you wanted to enjoy today's video. And also feel free to comment down below and let me know what you think of my top 10 games. Would you have included a different game in your top 10? Would you have had a different Game of the Year? Love to hear your fellas' thoughts down below. So everyone, once again, thank you very much for watching today's video. And until next time, I'll talk to you later. See you later, fellas.